Very much for this CME. I am invited for the CME. Dear my friends, senior colleagues, and my dear respected teachers. Towards the end of the CME, I selected a dull topic. That is nothing but hyperinsulinemia. You might have heard. Can I have a mic, please? It's not. Is it working? We have heard a lot about this hyperglycemia and its problem, as well as insulin, different types of insulin molecule in our treatment protocol. But what is hyperinsulinemia? What does it do in our life? What it harm it do our life? So we can see the effect of the positive effect of insulin and the negative effect of hyperinsulin. We know that insulin is an anabolic hormone that helps entry of glucose into the cell for energy production and cell growth. The last one, cell growth, is very important. Not only in metabolism, glucose, it affects growth of the cell that lead to malignancy. That is why we encounter corpus cancer syndrome. You remember that entity. Okay? Insulin performs this function through the receptors seen in the cell membrane. Receptors are all proteins, and proteins are determined by genes. That means once any alteration of the gene occurs, the receptors genetically deformed or become abnormal, glucose cannot enter into the cytosol. So what happens? Glucose and insulin remains outside the cell. You see, glucose is a secretagogue of insulin. So more and more insulin is secreted by the younger pancreas. Okay, in the younger age group, pancreas goes on secreting insulin. Okay, but the hyperglycemia is not manifested in the younger age group because more insulin is there. Okay, but that insulin is not inert, it will do some harm. The hyperinsulinemia now existing in the younger age group due to genetic deformity. We South Asian population are more prone to develop diabetes, type 2 diabetes, because of genetic deformity. Can you detect the hyperinsulinemia? At present, no standard value for insulin detection useful for clinical application. There are different values. Some of them say 12-hour fasting insulin, 10, 20, like that. But it is not yet standardized. So what is the effect of hyperinsulinemia in the youngsters? There are certain clinical manifestations expressed in the form of hyperandrogenemia. Okay, how does hyperandrogenemia comes in? We can see that. But as age advances, the pancreas gets exhausted so that additional insulin cannot be secreted. That ends in diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Now come to how hyperandrogenemia is produced by hyperinsulinemia. Insulin causes two levels, one in the ovary, the other in the liver. In the liver at first, it will suppression of sex hormone binding globulin. Once the SHBG is suppressed, only 1% of the free testosterone is doing all the beneficial or harm effect. Now SHBG is less. So there are free testosterone excess that will do the harm in females as well as males. The androgen, especially testosterone, is formed by the influence of insulin. Excess androgen is expressed in the form that we know: obesity, hirsutism, chronic anovulation leading to PCOS, so on and so forth. We know that entity. Not only in the liver, insulin acts on the theca and stromal cells of the ovary, leads to more LH. LH will stimulate the enzyme, the complicated 450 cytochrome enzyme, ends in DHEA, testosterone production. Now, androgen and androgen increases insulin resistance. There is one more entity, insulin L and LH potentiates production of androgen. This is worsened by obesity. That means there is a vicious cycle going on there. That will lead to hyperandrogenemia, PCOS, problems like that. Now, one more entity is coming up. High concentration of insulin bind to IGF, insulin-like growth factor 1 receptors. These are structurally similar to insulin receptors. I am not going to highlight on PCOS, but I want to say one word. The exact cause of insulin resistance leading to PCOS is not yet clear. Don't think that PCOS as such is due to hyperinsulinism. It is only one contributing factor. Complexity and polygenic nature of the disorder, more than one mechanism may be involved. Okay, that much is PCOS is not my subject, but I introduced. So there is insulin resistance, elevated testosterone, elevated estrogen, increased DHEAS, and increased androstenedione. Like that, it will vicious cycle goes on like that. Okay. Now, what is any other alternate pathway of insulin? This is metabolic pathway I told. Now, there is a proliferative pathway of insulin exists. That is very important in modern era where we are living. Once the classical pathway of insulin is blocked by genetic causes, androgens, free fatty acids we are consuming every day, obesity, advanced age, sedentary life. Okay. And trans fatty acids from our bakery, we are consuming a lot. This will lead to another mechanism that lead to tissue proliferation and cancer. What is that? This is very well identified nowadays, and a lot of research is going on. This aspect, mitogen activated protein kinase. Once the normal metabolism is altered, growth of tumor cells and smooth muscle occurs, leading to cancer formation. So in short, action of insulin in the liver, it decreases SHBG, increases testosterone. HDL is converted to LDL. That is harmful, leading to atherosclerosis. In the ovary, increased LH, androgen excess, insulin-like growth factor 1 stimulation, then MAP kinase activation leading to cell proliferation and cancer. I told you that the clinical signs of hyperinsulinemia, I am not repeating it, obesity, hirsutism, PCOD, acanthosis nigricans, these are seen in younger age group, and older age group, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, mitogenic effect leading to cancer and thrombosis. Okay, now what is the, this is repetition, what is the management? Lifestyle modification, very extensive topic, I am not going to talk about it. Phytomedicines, I will come to that later on. Alternate medicine, discussed a lot in the morning section, yoga, medication, etc. Medicines we discussed, and surgical, Korea, I put it like that. Now come to one by lifestyle modification. I want to say only two entities. Consumption of trans fatty acid, our soft drinks, that is, what is it called, sweetened carbonated beverages. Coca-Cola or whatever things, I don't know, that is available in the market. These are converted fructose. Fructose is highly toxic, and liver engaged in conversion of fructose to glucose and later leads to free fatty acid formation. So this is an interesting topic, I am not going to touch it, but avoid bakery items and fried items. Alcohol consumption should be avoided. Try for weight reduction. The adults after 30s, those who are eating the traditional 4 or 6 diets, reduce it to only 1 to 2. And that should be only quality diet. Okay? Now, come back. How insulin actions? We know that there is, I told you, a membrane receptors, and the receptor coming insulin complex. There is phosphorylation, tyrosine phosphorylation. This is a normal mechanism, and it will stimulate a second messenger, phosphatidylinositol 3K, and that will stimulate the blood for glucose transporters remaining dormant in Golgi apparatus. That will activate and the glucose is entering into the cytosol by flip-flop mechanism. Why I put this such a complicated intrinsic system, or not my, the nature made it, we found it only. Nature is more wiser than we people. Why they made it? Why can't the glucose enter directly into the cytosol? This is occurring in muscle once the muscle is having activity. That is why we told that you should have some physical activity, muscle, where there is no need for insulin receptors. Without receptors, the insulin can enter into the cytosol of skeletal muscles. Once you have some physical activity that is not seen in the generation now. You do have some activities every day. And why nature made it second messenger activation, etc., 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 like that, complicated one. There, suppose the insulin receptor mechanism is altered. Still, the glucose can enter into the cytosol by some other active ingredients found that nature itself is made available to us. That is nothing but phytomedicines or our green leafy vegetables and pulses. We can see what are they. The phytomedicines, some of them I am narrating only. That is D-chiro-inositol, that is found in soybean extensively and all other pulses, payarvargangal. Epicatechin, that is Pterocarpus marsupium. This is a drug our traditional Ayurvedic physicians, Vaidyans were using. That is nothing but Venga Kadal, Venga Maram. And the traditional Ayurveda physicians use it for reducing obesity and for infertility. They will put some kashayam and ask to drink it. Okay. For hydroxyisolation fenugreek, that is, fenugreek is ulua. And triterpene, that is kaipaka, bitter melon. So this, not only this, a lot of vegetables we are using contain second messenger. This second messenger will operate like this. If insulin is resistant, insulin receptors are resistant, the second messenger, dikairoinositol, myoinositol, commercially available, that will operate and allow the entry of glucose, thereby preventing hyperinsulinemia like that. And obesity produces TNF alpha, that is an inhibitor of the second messenger. Okay? Now, serine, instead of what happens in people, type 2 diabetes, 30% of the Indian population, Kerala people, are having type 2 diabetes. They are having, instead of tyrosine phosphorylation, serine, another molecule is coming in, so that the insulin, glucose cannot enter into the cytosol. In addition to that, it is due to genetic predisposition, overeating of triglycerides, obesity, stress, very important nowadays, sedentary lifestyle, and excess weight. This will all contribute type 2 diabetes. Is there any remedy for that? Is there any remedy? Any drug? The drug is nothing but thiazolidone dione, rosiglitazone and pioglitazone. Rosi was banned but recently reintroduced because of several reasons, but the company is not ready to produce the drug in market because already the damage has done extensively by the media, so that they won't introduce it. But Pio is available, and it is pioglitazone is available. It is found to be a useful drug in treatment of diabetes as well as this PCO like that. So, what does it do, this thioglitazone? It will act as a membrane sensitizer as well as second level PPR gamma. PPR gamma stimulate act as a second messenger. Now, what is the importance of phosphatidyl inositol 3 kinase? A number of research is going on in that aspect, and they found that they stimulate in cell signaling pathways noted a key regulator of cell cycle initiation, survival, protein synthesis, and glucose metabolism. One more slide, I will continue. Hyperactivation of AKT kinase is involved in many of the endometrial and ovarian cancer. The next sentence I am not reading. That is another something related to that. Likewise, MAP kinase hyperactivation is involved in mutation of oncogenes leading to ovarian malignancies. There are phase 2 trial of drugs blocking PI3K-AKT activities as well as MAP kinase activation. What is the importance of these drugs? These drugs will potentiate the action of cisplatin and paclitaxel. But unique side effects are observed once using these drugs, including hyperglycemia, because it is blocking that pathway. I am not saying much about metformin. A lot of discussion was going on this regarding metformin. But one important aspect of metformin is that it will inhibit plasminogen activator inhibitor. That is why it prevents thrombosis. So not only it reduces the weight by inhibiting, the mechanism is like this. Decreases hepatic gluconeogenesis in the fasting stage. Gluconeogenesis is occurring in the liver in the fasting stage, so that glucose level is kept normal in fasting. So there is no excess secretion of insulin. Thereby, hyperinsulinemia is prevented, hyperandrogenemia is corrected. In addition to that, there is inhibition of glucose from the gut, so that glucose is not absorbed, and it will prevent satiety, so that less diet they will take. And another important thing is that it will prevent thrombosis, follicular puncture, described a lot, but it is a genetically determined endocrine disorder where hyperinsulinemic hyperandrogenism is the salient feature. Management is medical, not surgical. It is a controversial entity with this. I am stopping my topic. Thank you very much.